Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Israel's ambassador to the UN, Danon, will deliver a very brief statement ahead of this morning's Emergency Security Council session. He will take one question afterwards. If you're called to ask that question, please remember to state your name and news outlet.
Good afternoon, good morning. Iran's mask has finally fallen. The regime no longer hides in the shadows or behind their proxies. Their true nature as a terror state is now undeniable. Following their heinous assault on 10 million Israeli civilians, the Islamic regime in Iran had the audacity, the chutzpah, to send a letter to the Security Council. In that letter, they patted themselves on the back, claiming they acted in accordance with international humanitarian law by targeting military sites, while suggesting that any response from Israel would be illegal. No reasonable person can comprehend the audacity of a regime that moments before sending this letter to the Security Council launched 181 ballistic missiles directly at the civilian population of another UN member state. This is the ultimate perversion of reality. Iran's mask has fallen completely. They are no longer the puppet masters hiding behind Hezbollah and other terrorist organizations. They said that, and I quote, that they are taking revenge for Nasrallah elimination. Iran has assumed responsibility for Hezbollah's attacks and are directly responsible for all the violence we have seen. The truth is out now. Iran stands fully exposed as a terror state orchestrating this chaos. Iran's attempt to disguise its violence in the language of legality is a vile distortion, and the world must not be fooled. What happened last night in Israel was not a defensive action of Iran. It was a calculated attack on a civilian population. Israel will not stand by in the face of such aggression. Israel will respond. Our response will be decisive. And yes, it will be painful. But unlike Iran, we will act in full accordance with international law. We will defend ourselves, and we will do so with the strength and justice that any sovereign nation is entitled to under international law. Tonight, millions of Jews will celebrate the Jewish New Year, Rosh Hashanah. It was a very difficult year, but our enemies should not be mistaken. Yes, we are in pain, but we are not weak. Thank you very much.
Ambassador Xu from China Central Television. Just one question. Israel just enlisted the SG as persona non grata because of the disappointing statement, what you called. It's been months that when Israel launched its operation in Gaza, 40,000 people got killed, more than 1 million displaced in Lebanon. The SG had similar statements, which many believe also being disappointing. Do you think this is kind of like a political move to, let's say, not seeking diplomacy space for this issue? Do you think there's still maneuver space for diplomacy by the UN?
First of all, there is always a place for diplomacy, and we believe in diplomacy. But to your question, we are very disappointed from the Secretary General's approach. Let's look at the last year. After October 7th, the Secretary General put a very poor statement where he said that there is no vacuum. And some understood that, he's justifying the atrocities of October 7th. After that, the UN never passed a resolution under his leadership condemning Hamas and the atrocities, not in the General Assembly, nor in the Security Council. And yesterday, when we are being attacked by a member state of the UN, 180 ballistic missiles, 10 million people running to shelters, the statement he put out basically calling for de-escalation, not mentioning Iran, not mentioning who is the aggressor or who is self-defending its people. That moral equation is detached from reality. And that's why we could not accept that. And I expect the Secretary General today, when he comes to the Security Council in a few minutes, to say it very clearly, who is the aggressor in this conflict, in this attack of Iran against Israel, and not to call both sides, and not to put us in the same place. It's like if the UN was not here during World War II, but imagine that the UN would put a statement that would call Nazi Germany and the allies to de-escalate. You don't do that. Thank you very much.
Ambassador,